freaking out about college applications. But yeah, things are going well. The computers are the only thing that have been a bit of an issue with the Wi-Fi. So that's what I have for you for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dana. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Jean.
When you say Wi-Fi, what Wi-Fi are you referring to? At school, at home?
The school Wi-Fi has had some problems. It hasn't been as bad recently, but for the first few days, it was definitely rough. And then there's the issue of Zoom being laggy sometimes. But I think the computers are the biggest thing. A lot of people I've heard have needed to get their batteries replaced, but I believe we ran out of batteries and just had to order more. So that's the biggest thing, is the actual computers, especially for juniors and seniors who have had them for a few years already. So it's more so,
nodding.
yeah, it's more so the actual computers rather than the Wi-Fi.
So the administration's on top of this.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Are there any other questions for Dana? Okay, we'll move on to the chair report. I'm happy that we have gotten to a nice start, good start to the school year. Thank you to everyone involved. During the last facilities subcommittee meeting, we discussed discontinuing the Fields Improvements Committee that was set up as a temporary committee too long ago, and it seems that the facilities subcommittee is really taken on the discussions about the fields. So we're going to be ending the Fields Improvement Committee, and the facilities subcommittee will be absorbing the work that they were doing. There's an opening on that subcommittee, and Vinny will be taking Scott's place on the facilities committee. Since Scott Fleer has officially resigned, Marvel will be announcing a replacement soon. That hasn't happened yet, but we're hoping to hear some news from them pretty quickly.
Hi, sweetheart.
Oh, hi, Judy.
Hello, Stephanie.
Did you just join us?
I did.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right. That is it for me. So now we're on to report of the superintendent with Scott.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, everybody. So, of course, my comments will all be focused on our opening and COVID. And Dana, I'm glad to hear from you that things are going well with our students. I have to tell you, anyone that's spent any time in school, it's a very subdued version of high school. And I think between the masks and the lowered numbers, it has a different feel. But, you know, my sense is that everybody is really pleased to be back and would much rather to be back under these crazy conditions than not back at all. Of course, it's the 1 year that I'm not principal that parking all of a sudden is no longer problematic. I don't know why I couldn't be principal this year and experience that, but I'm glad for Dr. Brisgill that parking should be a breeze this year. So we have, I think, you know, we've discussed this, and I know in my board updates I reflect on how the opening has been going. But I have to say that the students have been doing a remarkable job of adjusting to this new reality, whether it be just simply willing to keep the masks on all day, following a very convoluted schedule at times. Our staff and our teachers, I think, have done a remarkable job of putting into play the planning that the administrators and our reopening committee spent so much time this summer on putting together. So I really have to commend everybody. So this really, we've done 2 weeks so far. That first week, as you remember, was a very unique week in that we had early release days and we had a very small number of students. So last week was really our full normal hybrid week, and it went very well. Right now, and this changes and will continue to change week from week. But we have 138 students who are choosing to learn entirely remotely. It's 94 high school students and 44 middle school students. That equates to about 10% of our student population is currently involved in distance learning. Some of the challenges that we've been tackling all along, and when I say all along, I mean each day, is the challenge of learning that somebody may have known somebody or been in contact with somebody at some point down the line who may either have had a COVID symptom or may have been tested. Good portion of our day is in chasing down each of these situations to see if we have a positive case. We have not within the building yet had any situation, but we certainly have had a lot of close calls. We've had a few students so far who have gone to our isolation room. So the LPN was a good investment this year. But again, we haven't had any positive cases within the building. So that's going pretty well. The discussion amongst districts, whether to start to think about going back full time, and I think this is really more of a secondary discussion than an elementary discussion, but the discussion really revolves around staffing and the question of, do we have adequate staffing to be able to go back and manage a building? As you've probably seen in the media, substitute teachers are very, very hard to come by. And if you try to fill a position, if a teacher leaves and you're filling a position, it can be nearly impossible to do so. There's certainly a shortage of teacher applicants and a shortage of substitutes at this point. So although COVID continues to be the challenge we continue to chase, the lack of staffing is probably the most immediate problem that we've been contending with. So, but we've been managing. The building administrators have been doing a fantastic job of managing their staff and making sure that all of our students have an adult with them while they're in the building, and that online instruction continues. So all in all, I think that we're off to a great start, and I really commend our students and our staff for doing such a great job. Stephanie, you're muted.
Okay, that's the one time I'll do that. We're on to consent agenda and the approval of minutes for August 24th, enclosure 10.1A and 10.1B, and personnel actions. Request for leave by Christine Zeiner.
Stephanie, can I just point out that in the request for leave that is in the packet has been updated. So the letter of leave that is in the packet, Mrs. Zeiner indicates that she was going to be returning on April 26th after her maternity leave. She updated that letter and we forwarded it on to board members this afternoon. We just received it this afternoon, that she's now requesting that following her maternity leave that she'd like to take the rest of the year off as stipulated in the contract.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes and request for leave?
Stephanie, are those two separate motions? This is Kathleen.
I guess so. I think with the consent agenda, since they are two different subjects, we'll do both. We'll do them separately. So the approval of minutes, let's start with that. Is there a motion to accept the minutes for August 24th?
Yep, a motion to accept the minutes, Stephanie.
Second.
This is Jessica. I'll second.
Okay, we'll go to a vote on that. Sue?
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Jean,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So motion passes to approve the minutes.
Oh, I have to vote too, Steph, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss you, Jess?
But I'll just agree.
I'm sorry. Did Rob make it into the meeting yet? No? Okay. All right. Motion passes unanimously. I'm sorry, Jess. And then for the personnel actions, is there a motion that the RAM Board of Ed adopt is there a motion to accept the personnel action of a request for leave for Christine Zeiner?
So moved. This is Joe.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah. Seconded, Laurel. Jean.
Okay. All right. We'll go to vote. Oh, sorry. Is there a discussion?
Joe here. Just question, how is this in the contract? So it's 12 weeks, and then what is she taking sick time after that, Scott?
Joe, I'm going to have to look at the contract. I'm not sure if it allows sick time or if it allows it as unpaid time.
Well, before we approve it, I think we need to get clarification of how she's taking her time.
Let's see.
Or does that matter?
No,
Yeah, well-
no, that matters. Thank you for asking.
I think as her wording is that it's as stipulated in the contract.
Scott, do you know what that means? Is that FMLA followed by something, or is it all FMLA?
I believe you get the 6 or 8 weeks of FMLA, and then after that, the contract speaks to that. But I'm going to load in the contract before I speak to it, so I don't say the wrong thing here.
Yeah, because some contracts go to 12 weeks if people have that time
Right.
built.
Okay.
Scott, if it helps, maybe Stephanie, maybe we could table this for now until Scott gives his definitive answer and we can move on. Or do you need
Yes.
more?
Hold on. I think, Joe, I have it.
Tiffy's got it. Yeah.
Okay, so accumulated sick leave shall continue to be available for personal illness and temporary disabilities caused or contributed to by pregnancy, childbirth.
Okay.
So,
are we at discussion on that? Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes, we do.
So we're in discussion. Okay, good. Okay, that was a great question.
can
I
I?
have a question, Scott. Did they clarify? I don't have the contract in front of me, but they say pregnancy is a disability?
Yes, it's under
Yes.
temporary disabilities. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
that is.
that's the legal term.
Right.
And it goes on to say the board and the administrator will not discriminate on the basis of pregnancy or childbirth, and notwithstanding the provisions of this article, to the contrary, the board shall comply with all provisions of applicable federal and or state law concerning disability, maternity leave, and or family and medical leave.
But doesn't, I'm not trying to be, I'm just trying to clarify that when maternity leave is a set time, right? That's in the contract, isn't it? Believe it's like, isn't it 12 weeks? And or is she trying to take the family medical leave as well? I'm just a little gray on that. I'm sorry.
She is, hold on one sec.
Her letter, she's requesting regarding maternity leave, my due date's currently December 2nd. plan to take 12 weeks under FMLA, then will be extending my leave per my contract through the end of the school year.
Right.
Stephanie, how long has she been with the district?
I don't know, Scott.
She's been with the district for, I'm going to say it's been about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm. And does the district allow for that, Scott? Because
yes,
she references that.
Yes, we have. We've allowed it in every other case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is not an unusual request.
So, I mean, I don't know if there's more discussion, but I would move to vote.
Okay.
I think just to clarify what Joe was saying, I think the question is not whether or not you can take the leave, but whether or not is it a paid leave, or do you have to use up your sick time? I know contracts are different, district to district, so I don't know the answer.
Right. She uses up her sick time.
But she's paid but uses her sick time. So she doesn't have the sick time, but she is paid because she's using that. So it's kind of both, Kathleen, I think.
And after her sick time has run out, she will be on unpaid leave until the end of the year.
Correct. Yes.
If it runs out.
Right.
If it runs out.
It may not. Often it doesn't.
It would run out because of the length of time she's been with us. She wouldn't have enough time to take it through the end of the year.
Okay.
So
are there any?
I still am a little. I still just gray. If we've done this in the past, that's great. I appreciate it. I just want to know. Again, like Kathleen was saying, my question was, FMLA, I know, and then maternity, I know, and then after that, you were saying sick time, and then if she runs out of sick time, it's unpaid, correct?
Yes, correct. And she would use her sick time during the FMLA leave, and then following, Joe, I think what you're referring to, that would be unpaid leave.
Okay.
Scott, you had mentioned earlier, which I'm aware of, is that there is a teacher shortage. Do you have a plan for covering her?
Well, she is a Spanish teacher, which is probably one of the most difficult areas to fill. So we have been actively engaged in searching, and we actually may have a lead on someone to help cover. So I'm optimistic at this moment.
I'm smiling for you, Scott.
So since we're in discussion, I would like to say that, and I'm not saying that anybody else does not think this, but I really do. I just think the world of our teachers, and I want to retain staff. And I think that this is an extremely important time, and they either use their sick time or go to unpaid leave, whatever they've accumulated. So that decides the fact of which pays. And I mean, I would like to move to a vote. I think these are excellent questions, and I really appreciate them.
So this is Jean. So the precedent has always been to accept these. Yeah. So let's play Supreme Court and say it's precedent to do this. Mm-hmm. To say no now doesn't seem to make a lot of sense and will create a lot of ill will towards the board, I feel.
I don't think anybody was saying that. As a mom, I totally empathize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not saying that at all.
No, and Joe and Kathleen, this is Judy. I want to be extraordinarily clear. I think the world of all of you, and I never would suggest that. I apologize if it had any inference of that at all.
So really, it was a point of information, Joe. Is that correct? Can you confirm?
Yeah, it's really. I mean, look, I think the world of our teachers as well as but I think I'm not going to vote on something that just says per the contract. I want to know what the contract is. I like to know what that is. I mean, I know.
I agree.
I know what family leave is. I know what pregnancy, maternity leave is. You know, my wife is a teacher. I understand that, but at some point the letter changed. Now she's going to go to the whole year, and that's kind of where Mr. Leslie said one of my concerns would be, you know, with a shortage, where are we going to find some of these teachers? But I just want to know for my own, you know, education that if she, you know, after a certain point, I think it's only so many weeks, and then after that, how is that person taking? Is it sick time, and how does it revert back to it? You know, other than saying per the contract. Well, none of us have the contract. I just point of information. That's all.
Joe and Kathleen, I beyond appreciate your clarification. I could not and would not vote if I didn't know that. So I accept that in the spirit it was given, information only.
Right.
Okay, so are we ready?
So just so clear, so she would be able to use her sick time during her, and the legal term, her period of disability, which would be the maternity leave. And then it would be unpaid leave following that, once the doctor gives her the okay to return to work.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought though per FMLA, you were able to exhaust your sick and vacation, and then should you choose, and then once it's exhausted, it goes to unpaid leave.
I'm sorry, who is speaking?
This is Lori.
Lori, yeah. Lori, I think you're right. Up until the FMLA, I think is up to 12 weeks.
I think, is it 12 or is it 16?
No, I think it's 12. Unless something changed, it's 12.
Ava, did you have something to add?
No, I unfortunately clicked by mistake. My bad.
Okay, I thought maybe you had some information for us. Okay, are we ready to move to vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sue?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Lori?
Am I off mute? Sorry.
No,
yes.
You're on. Okay.
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Judy?
Absolutely.
Jess? Jess? Is that a yes?
I'm bad. I'm sorry. I just lost connection. I'm having very bad computer experiences tonight, but yes, it's a yes.
Okay. And I'm also a yes. So motion passes unanimously. Okay. All right. Moving on to old business. There is none.
Stephanie, point of order. Are you going to get the consent agenda motion through?
Oh, well, we just went through both areas with the minutes and the personnel actions as separate votes. So I don't think we need to do a consent. Okay. No old business. Number 12, new business. Scott?
So the first item in new business is an update on the Raptor system. And by Raptor system, I'm not referring to our new mascot, but a new entry system that we've purchased and will be putting into place. We had an initial discussion with the policy committee during their last meeting, but and we're waiting for Shipman and Goodwin to provide us with a policy for first reading, but we thought it would be a good opportunity to make sure that everybody on the board is informed about what the Raptor system is, what it does, before you receive the proposed policy to consider for approval at the October meeting. So I'm going to invite Scott Butson to also chime in on this. Essentially, what the Raptor system entails, this is a very commonly used entry system for schools. Hebron is currently using it. And you know, right now we buzz visitors into the building. They enter the office and they sign in on an old-fashioned pad, and then they get a visitor's tag, which is a generic visitor's tag, and then they sign out when they leave and return the visitor's tag. What the Raptor system does is it brings a great deal of sophistication and a higher degree of safety to that process, in that when the individual checks into the office, they have to run an ID, typically a driver's license, through a almost like a credit card machine, and it identifies if that individual is on, say, an offenders list, and then just as importantly, it prints out a personalized identification that person then wears while they're visiting the building. And it then confirms for us when they leave, because we'll have a record, a more formal record of when they've left the building. So it's it allows us to tighten up on the security of visitors entering and leaving the building. The reason why that a policy is necessary is that we are collecting personal information to make this work. And I'm going to let Scott Butson add to my basic description.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. No, that was a great description. That's the basis of the system. What was great about this is that they're actually starting to target the system as, you could even track if someone had COVID and they came into the building and who they visited, things like that. It's a great system that really tracks where visitors are when they leave. Jen Choma had used it at Hebron, and she was super excited that we're getting it, hopefully getting it. And I think it'll be a great asset to the visitor management system that we have now, which is slightly antiquated.
So we have the Raptor system, but again, we're not going to begin using it until we have a board policy that essentially provides guidelines in terms of how we're using it. So at the last policy meeting, I provided a sample policy from another district, and Jessica Ritter is crafting a specific policy for RHAM. And again, at the next board meeting, we'll have that for our first reading. But we wanted to make sure that everybody had some background and understood what we were bringing to the board. Any questions at all about? And again, this is the most widely used system that I can tell you that any of the many high schools that I visit are all using this system. So it's really become the standard and the norm now for most. I can speak for most high schools in the state, but I think it's probably true that most schools in the state are using it.
Are there any other questions for Scott or Scott?
Okay. I'm going to let Eva talk about the financials.
All right, good evening, everyone. I noticed that in the agenda packet, 12A is listed as food service, but my packet has the financials first, so I'll go through the financials. So the financials take into account the expenditures through August 31st, 2020. As you can see in my memo, I'm projecting a net favorable position at this time of $53,554. There are 2 vacancies that we seem to be having a hard time hiring. One is a 0.6 school psychologist, and the other one is the 0.5 IT technician. So we're hoping to get some momentum on those to still hire those people. Also, if you're looking at the net projection, which would be page 2, you will see a line that says insurance claims. The object code is 900, and you'll see a negative $13,862. That has to do for the light pole in the senior parking lot. Unfortunately, had some vandalism. The total cost is $14,862. $1,000 has to be absorbed by the district budget because that is our deductible. If we're able, or the insurance company is able to collect the money from the individuals that would be charged with the vandalism, and we recoup our cost. We will get the $1,000 back. I'm waiting for the check to arrive in the mail. It was mailed, so we'll see when the check arrives. But when the check arrives, that'll erase that negative dollar amount there. At this time, the budget is not frozen. We are cautiously watching it and making sure that we don't have to go to those extreme measures of freezing the budget. So staff members are still actively encumbering funds. Currently, there's about $195,000 that was redirected for COVID expenditures, and I'm working on getting FEMA reimbursements for this. I have to wait till I have a check number and the invoice to ensure that we can get recoupment for those expenditures. Pupil Services is still working with various students for IEPs and tracking placement and working on those encumbrances. Capital improvements as well as capital non-recurring projects are going as planned, and we're just waiting for finalized invoices and or project dates at this time. Do you have any questions at the moment?
Stephanie, this is Joe. I have a question. So Eva, the $195,000 that came out, that was not approved in the budget. So where are we taking the money from?
Well, so it depends on, so right now, currently, many of the teachers have reallocated their monies to be spent on certain expenditures. Michael Schleihofer is doing the same thing. He's using supply monies to purchase the PPE equipment. And Scott Butson is also doing what needs to be done in his budget to cover those expenditures. Transfers come to the board next month.
And Joe, I think Joe, just to add to that, having returned under the hybrid model has really allowed us all to, I think, much better manage the how much we have had to transfer. I think if we were in a full return model, it would have been a much higher cost to do that. And here again, the staff has been very understanding, and both Eva and Mike have done a nice job of ensuring that we're able to get the PPE and the cleaning supplies that we've needed without, as I think Eva mentioned earlier on, without robbing teachers of the supplies that they need.
Thanks for that. I think it's remarkable, and we're still at $53,000 on a positive side. So that's a good job.
And just on the light post, that is an active investigation. I'm happy to say that the investigation seems to be pointing to someone other than a RHAM student, either current or former. Happy for that. But that, of course, then whoever has, they're looking at, they're out of our reach within the school facility. So we're really relying on the police to work on that investigation.
Scott, at some point we seem to have issues always up in the parking lot, and I know I hate to mention this because I know it's a favorite place for kids to gather, but at some point should we be looking at closing that down at some point in the evening, with some kind of security measures, or putting other cameras up there at some point, maybe, and have a discussion of facilities about this, because we seem to have, that's a serious problem when someone takes down a light pole and doesn't, that really hurt somebody. But I know there's been a lot of damage up there in the past, and maybe we should just relook at that at some point.
Yeah, and I know in phase 3 of the camera replacement that expands the cameras up in that area. It's all those suggestions are good, Joe. It's a tough you know, to close it off is tough unless you have the cameras giving you eyes on it, or you have somebody watching it, whether it be, you know, patrol drives through from the town, or, you know, somebody on the school side. Kids are pretty resilient, and they find a way to get into places where we'd like them not to sometimes. But you know, my own feeling is that once we have full camera coverage of that area, these issues are going to be easily resolved. You know, the old cameras that we did have in the area were helpful, but because they were old technology, they were of minimal use in the evening. Our new cameras give us, you know, as good a picture at night as they would during the day. So, you know, I do think that once the cameras are up there, that's probably the ultimate answer. I think the other answer is having, you know, additional controls, and we've had conversations with the local police. I know, you know, Mark Rivera has done a really wonderful job of this throughout the summer of being up there. Unfortunately, obviously he can't be there all the time, but you know, they've been doing a nice job of working with the kids. But I do think cameras are probably at the end of the day going to be the most valuable asset that we can.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the financials, on the financial net projection? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the student activity report. As you can see, we are in a new format because I was able to bring student activity over into our financial system. So everything will be in one place for staff members to be able to enter in purchase requisitions, and the report, I feel, is easier for everyone to understand, and it just seems to be a little neat package. So hopefully you agree with that. But in any case, everything does balance out to the bank, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on that one.
No questions?
If I could just as a point of information, on the class of 2020, you'll notice that there's quite a balance, over 18,000. We are in the process of providing refunds. It's not something we've done in the past, but based upon last year's loss of all of the typical senior activities, prom and project graduation and the senior outing and such, we will be doing refunds. So that will be treated a bit differently than it has been treated in the past.
So, Scott, has the student body weighed in on that?
The class officers have, and we've received quite a few requests from both parents and students, you know, requesting that we do refunds this year, in light of the fact that tough economic times, and you know, they really did not get the benefit of what those funds were originally raised. And
Scott, is that what most towns are doing, or are there any interesting ideas?
You know, Judy, I'm not sure. You know, we didn't reach out to other towns only because, again, the requests were also reasonable. You know, it's difficult times. We've paid, you know, almost a couple $100 in class dues, and we didn't get the benefit. So it just seems like a refund would make the most sense, and that was the requests that those we were getting. So I'm not sure what other towns are doing. I would assume they're doing something similar. You know, we try to when we have, like, the senior class is a perfect example of this. When we ask students to pay dues and fundraise, we are pretty tight about making sure that that money that's being fundraised or being paid as dues is used for the purpose that we're asking that money for. So if we can't reach those purposes, you know, then we often will give refunds. So it's pretty consistent with what we've done with other, like, projects that students might have raised money and then.
No, Scott, I appreciate that, and I am in no way being critical, but we all know this is the word of the year, unprecedented.
Yes.
And none of us have ever seen this before. And I'm a fan of history. You know, I'm a history buff, and I just wonder, you know, they didn't go off to war. This was just this odd pandemic that shut everything down. And, you know, perhaps they're not even interested. You would know that better than I would. I mean, they seem settled and happy in college. So,
you know, they, you know, keep in mind that they did, the class did provide from their funds, a $5,000 donation to the Lions.
I know that that was beautiful. So, that was beautiful, and they can feel very good about that for sure.
So yes. I feel like they're kind of doing the best of each little thing. They've given back to the community and then getting back some as well.
You know, I know, I appreciate that, but I always imagined the class of 2020. It was so far off. I've imagined it for years, and I don't know. Here we are, but okay.
Scott, this is Lori. I just have a question, just for my own knowledge. How are each of these activities? How are their budgets determined? Is it all through fundraising? How does that?
For the different classes?
Not for the classes. Well, I guess the classes as well.
Yeah.
But you know, for all of the different, you know, there's pages and pages of different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for the classes, what the classes do is they do charge dues, and I think it's typically $25, $30 a year for class dues. And on top of that, the students engage in a variety of fundraising events. So, you know, if you look at the senior class, I mean, they have, again, $18,000, so that they raised, you know, they end up raising quite a bit of money. But the money that they're raising is for, in a typical 4-year time frame, some of that money will be used to cover the senior outing, which is a day where the senior class as a whole goes to usually a destination place like Six Flags or one of the recreation centers. It covers, or it helps defray the cost for their junior prom and for their senior prom, so that it really goes to helping them defray what could be quite expensive events. For all of the other activities that you're looking at there, like if it's a I'm going to pick an example.
Yeah, like I'm looking at soccer girls, $4,295.
Yep.
Soccer freshman girls, $64.50. Soccer boys, $7.82. I'm like, okay. Is it fundraising or?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be an example of fundraising, and what the teams will typically do is fundraise so that they can purchase those things that the school doesn't provide. So, for example, we provide uniforms, but we don't provide personal warm-ups, sweatshirts and sweatpants, that sort of thing. So what they'll do is fundraise, and it allows them to all purchase identical warm-up equipment to help facilitate team spirit, and it allows them to purchase things that, again, the district typically wouldn't provide. So you may look at an account and only see $7, but it may be that they purchased sets of warm-ups last year, whereas another team may have as much as a few $1,000s, and it may be that they're saving up for warm-ups or something else, this year. So,
Scott, may I piggyback on that? I know Scott is unfortunately no longer on the board, but so we're an 11-person board, and at graduation time, over a third of us had senior children: Sue Rapoli, Vin Colonna, me, and Scott Flair. And I just wonder, because this is the next greatest generation, in my opinion. They're modest, they're kind, they're all of that. But I just hope we're not shortchanging them by not doing some amazing senior activity. And I know very well, and I need to write a letter to the RHAM teachers about how well acclimated my child is and prepared for college. And she's probably moved on. It's probably me that just still has my heart in RHAM. But I just want to make sure that we're kind of sure that we don't give them some final farewell of some sort. I appreciate and understand this is a unique time, but I don't know. And I've been extraordinarily busy this summer, so I haven't talked to other parents. So I don't know. And it's not even about my kid. She is so happy in college and, fits in, and life is good. But are we sure about that, Scott, do you think?
I do, Judy, again, because the request, and there were quite a few, really expressed some hardships, and really that this money would really come in handy. I think in kind of the spirit of what you're seeing and sharing,
sure.
We still, when I say we, myself and Mary Shattle, who's was the
I love
advisor for last year's seniors.
Yeah.
We continue to reach out to the officers from last year, and I have to tell you that at this time it's almost impossible to get a response, and it makes sense. They've moved on. They're in their college. So I think, Judy, I think we may, it might be more beneficial to do a help group for parents that are having fun. I can empathize with that, because every time I drove by my own schools, I felt like part of me was
Leslie, only if you lead our group.
Deal.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Are there any additional questions on student activity? All right, so moving on to the food service. So as most of the board members know, we went out for a new, for an RFP to contract with a new food service management company. And we had selected Whitson's. So during these challenging times of trying to provide not only safe return to school, we have to also feed the students and try to feed them in a way that is healthy and safe for everyone during this process. So Whitson's is doing their best to step up to the plate and make sure that the needs are being met. They're being responsive to any suggestions and or criticisms they might be receiving. So part of what I think has thrown some students off is the food originally being served were individually packaged meal for the health and safety of students. And I know down at the middle school that was not being accepted very well. So the team is actually pulling together and working on serving more variety as opposed to just the individually packaged meals. So being that they're a brand new food service company, this is a little difficult for them in the fact that they want to show up moving their best foot forward and trying to service children or students in classrooms is not what they had foreseen when any of us set out for an RFP. But we seem to be having a fairly good response given the situation. So I think, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. And as most of you are aware, the Seamless Summer Operation has been extended to December 31st. So that means that all students eat for free, and that's both for breakfast and for the lunch services. Are there any questions on food service?
Eva, just a quick question.
Yep.
You may have said this and I missed it. Did you say, are all children taking advantage of the free breakfast and lunch, or?
They are not. So we're doing our best to ensure that everybody is aware of the free breakfast and lunch. Staff members are pitching in that regard. So they're trying to let everybody know about it. So we have stations set up for breakfast so that when the students get off the bus, there's one right there. There's one when the seniors drive in, and there's one down at the middle school. So those are the 3 breakfast stations. Lunches there's 3 down at the middle school, and there's 3 up at the high school. So lunches, I think, have a little bit more action to them, I guess is the best way to say it. Breakfast, I think people are actually having time to eat before they come in, which was kind of funny because I actually helped try to serve the breakfast on Thursday of the first week. And there's a couple of kids that were just like, oh, breakfast? Sure, I'll take it. And I thought that was cute. But come Monday, the same group was like, no, thank you. I'm too tired. It's Monday. So it is fun to watch them. But yeah, it's they're starting to get more comfortable, I think, with the situation. So I think they're starting to warm up to more ideas. But I think it's just going to take a little bit in this current state that we're in.
And I think for RHAM, we were selling mostly a la carte things at breakfast as opposed to a full breakfast. And so once they're back in the kitchen and they have access to and can do more, I'm sure we'll have sales. But we were never a large provider of breakfast per se. It was really more the a la carte type things that kids picked up.
I do for my own kids. The first couple times they went, they're like, "Are we supposed to take that, Mom?" And I'm like, "Only if you need breakfast." But they have breakfast at home, so it was just interesting. They weren't sure.
No, they can. We try to push it.
Like, is it mandated breakfast now?
No, we didn't mandate it, but we're encouraging.
But I think your story is so cute, and I can imagine that on a Thursday they'd take it, but Monday they're too tired.
Yep.
I mean, it's adorable. It's so cute.
Is that open to free breakfast to board members?
Unfortunately, you have to be 18 and under.
Oh.
Eva, can I ask, I may have missed this somewhere, what happens to, or do you anticipate there being a lot of food that hasn't gone to the students?
They're actually doing a really good job of trying to manage food waste. The first week was a little bit trying, unfortunately, and because it's already cooked, it does get disposed of. For food handling safety, we can't transport it somewhere else if it's already warmed up. So because we can't keep it at that temperature. So unfortunately, yes, there has been a little bit more waste than desired.
Okay. Ava, are you going to update on the DOT project, or is that going to be Scott?
Nope. So we can do it together, but so we actually reached out to the town because this is a town project based on the funding. So overall, the project is running close, but no cigar. So as you might be aware, we had a punch list walkthrough. So the folks from Luke's, BB, Tom Fenton, who is an engineer for the town, Rich Clarko, Mr. Leslie, Mr. Schleihofer, and myself walked around. we did the whole bus loop plus to make sure that signage was where signage should be. If we noticed anything that might need to be addressed before they put the official stamp that the project is closed. So signage is going to be made slightly bigger. Some signs were going to be moved around. We noticed that there's a certain pitch to this one sidewalk that was put in front of the central office on the way to the high school main office, that the pitch was a little too steep. So we're ensuring that that is brought to ADA compliance. So having that whole punch list put together, it's Tom Fenton's estimation that RHAM will still be seeing bills for that will total approximately, and I say approximately because they're still negotiating the costs with the contractor. So it'll be approximately $122,157 that will come from the overage / contingency that the board put away during the budget process. Once the project is finalized, so once those items that are on the punch list get finalized, the project then needs to get audited by the state of Connecticut because it is a state project. And then once that happens and everything is finalized, then I believe the funds would be free and clear for anything that is left over. Does that help answer any questions?
Stephanie, this is Joe. One question I have is that these cost overages are, if they're by design issue, they either should go back to the engineers, which would be Luke's, or they should go to the contractor.
There's a little bit of both. So there were some by design, and that's definitely one that we're fighting. And then there is a few that by design, I guess the signage was appropriate, but when in reality, when we're looking at it and or the placement of them, we're just having them move around. So there's a little bit of both.
And we're working, Eve and I are working closely with Andy Tierney in the town to kind of straighten out what we feel is a reasonable expense to the district and what is something that should be borne by the engineers of the or BB.
I did hear you say 122,000 though, right?
Correct. So there were some billable hours that came up for inspections and a couple of other items. There was a list of items. So in totality, the construction contract was awarded for $984,500. The total project costs, which again are estimated at this time, is $1.2 million. So $1,225,875. The state funding is $1,041 and $1,041,135. And that's where the difference. So let's see. The construction engineer is coming in at $120,312, with the estimated additional cost to completion was $58,480 for a total project cost of $1,163,292, where the difference is the $122,157. And I apologize, we got these a little bit later in the afternoon, so we didn't have a moment to put those up for you.
And those figures are from the town of Hebron. So, we're continuing to work with them to confirm what we believe is a reasonable cost and what might be something that we'd fight.
So, but in essence, based on the budget that we had put into play, we had $184,800. If you take away the $122,157, if that's what it stays at, there's a potential of $62,642 left.
Okay, thank you. I know we budgeted a lot of this, so that was obviously the intent of these overages, but so okay, keep us posted. Thank you.
Will do. Are there any other questions?
No? Okay. We're going to move on to number 3. Oh, thank you, Eva. I should say that. It's a lot going on right now, and we appreciate your work. With number 13, reports, we'll go down the line with facility safety transportation. I want to say that there are some personnel changes that are going to be going on, and I've notified Jan to change a few things, and we will have an additional Marlboro person on here next time, hopefully. So we discussed already that Vin will be taking place of Scott Fleer's spot on facilities. Lori, you'll be on policy and program next time we meet. So the facilities, Joe, do you want to speak to that meeting?
Sure.
Wait, Stephanie, can you back up? What did you say about Marlboro, please?
Scott Fleer's replacement will be coming soon, and that person, when they arrive, will be put on some subcommittees, and hopefully it will be next meeting, and we'll have that show up. Okay. Joe?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. We had a meeting. So we talked about the drainage on the comp field and the baseball field issues with BSC group. They were on the conference call with Mike Schlehofer and Scott Leslie talking about where we're headed with these plans. So in the facilities committee, we discussed there was two options for the comp field, phase 1 or plan A or plan B. I forget what the terminology was, but the cost associated with putting in the drainage, the proper drainage, that has been a discussion for quite a few years now, but is right around, I think Mr. Leslie sent out an update to the full board this week in his packet. I hope everybody had a chance to look at it, but that plan is about $116,000, and we need to, I guess, Mr. Leslie is going to put out an invite to the whole board, the facilities committee meeting for next week to try and meet with Mr. Calarco and come up with a plan to see where which is the right direction to go without, just meeting with us without BSC for right now, but just amongst ourselves, and come up with a strategy and think where we want to go. But basically, the comp field is coming in. The BSC's group, I think if everybody saw it, it's about $116,000. That's just to get us some estimates. But we should start moving on this. So the board is prepared to, after we have our facilities committee meeting next week, we'd like to make a recommendation to the full board at that point for at least a comp field. The baseball field, I think, is going to take a little bit more work. I don't think there's a clear-cut direction what really is the problem. They did test holes on it, and they didn't find anything with the test pits. So I think we just have a lot of water issues that we're trying to make some educated decision on which way we want to go. With Mr. Calarco's help, we might be able to get that resolved. So that was pretty much and then we also had a discussion on with BSC group on the overall facility plan for this athletics moving forward, and that's is still going to be obviously a work in progress with Superintendent Leslie and the athletic director and BSC group and the facilities committee. So that was it. And one other thing, a positive note, I was talking with Mr. Calarco, and he had brought to my attention that they, some of the good work that our facilities crew is doing is they reevaluated the comp field and the water on the sprinkler heads, and they removed something like 12 sprinkler heads that were duplicates doing the same areas, which resulted in significant water savings. So I just want to, bring that to the board's attention that with the help of Mr. Clarko and Mike Pompowitz out there, each one of those heads is putting out about 20 gallons a minute. And I don't know what the run time is, but it's a substantial amount of water that we've reduced. So hats off to them. That's
Good.
it. Thank you.
Joe, and if I could just add in terms of just to highlight the difference between what BSC is suggesting for the competition field versus the baseball field. In the competition field, there's a very specific plan, a perimeter drain to address the drainage issue. For the baseball field, in our conversations with BSC, they really, as Joe said, they've done some test pits, they did some perk tests, and they really don't know what's happening. And their suggestion there was to build up the field and wait a few years and see what happens. So they're really, we're not getting any definitive suggestions on what to do there, as opposed to the competition field, which is pretty straightforward. So.
Thanks for that, Scott. Appreciate it.
Okay. Finance hasn't met yet, right? This month? Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, we haven't met yet.
All right. Negotiations is about to meet on Wednesday, so I don't think there's anything there. Policy?
Yeah, we just basically discussed having Jessica Ritter update the visitor policy for the Raptor system to then be submitted to the board for the first reading.
Okay. Thank you, Jess. Program is about to meet this Thursday, so we have nothing there. DOT traffic grant. We just had a DOT update. Does anybody want to add anything else? No? Okay.
I would just say, Stephanie, at the project, I think Scott's already said this, but just again, the project came out, I think, very, very well on time. The residual is minimal, but I think it's, I hope everybody's happy with it because it seems to have, moved some of our issues along.
I can tell you that it has brought a great deal of relief in terms of parent drop off. And, we could not have predicted we'd be in a pandemic and be back in a hybrid model with many, many more of our parents dropping off than usual. And it's really been so helpful to separate the traffic. Like if you stop by during drop off, you would notice that we really don't even need a police presence at the bus area where the buses pull out, which was always our really troublesome area. But because the parents entering way down by the entrance to Betts Park into that parent drop off, that's where you'll see the police officers now, because that tends to be where the traffic gets tied up a little bit. But it really has alleviated some of the traffic issues that we were, really vexed us. And so it's really done a nice job. The one probably, Eva mentioned we're going to be replacing some of the signs with larger signs, which will be easy to read. But the one piece that you haven't seen yet and is unfortunately delayed due to manufacturing delays, but there will be a beacon on either side of the crosswalk, so that when a student crosses, they can push a button and beacons will flash, alerting traffic that someone's crossing. Those are going to be delayed. They hope to have them in, I think, by the end of this week, but it's going to be another probably couple of weeks before materials actually arrive for installation. So.
All right. Fields Improvement Subcommittee is now being dissolved. And the discussion of fields was really part of the facilities subcommittee this month. So, and that's been reported on. EastCon, Judy, is there anything?
Yeah, EastCon's meeting, I don't know if there's a different way to report it, is literally always the day after our board meeting. So it's tomorrow, and it's always that way. And there's a lot on the agenda as they're reinventing themselves in these times of COVID. They're always trying to serve the districts. They're willing to come out, Scott, if ever you have kind of a light agenda, and Stephanie, and want them to come out and share what they can offer and what they can provide. They're willing to.
Okay.
They don't need to, but they're willing to do that as an outreach to the community, because I think there's some things that people don't typically think of them for.
All right, thank you, Judy.
Sure.
And with CABE, do you have anything with CABE, Judy?
With CABE, I think all of you, I don't like to duplicate things. I think you're all getting the emails that they are providing a lot of information around legal updates and COVID updates, safety updates, and the conference is going to be different this year. They're trying to provide the information. Please make sure that you're all getting the emails. If you're not, we can make sure that you do. Especially the newer members, the new Marlboro members, Stephanie, and our new Andover friend.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, are you getting the emails?
I am.
Yeah. So I don't want to, spend time on something you're already getting. If ever you have questions, any of you, please reach out on any of the CABE communications. But I think they're doing a nice job.
Okay. All right. So I think we can go on to number 14, public comments. Is there anybody who'd like to speak for public comment? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone. All right, number 15, we have a calendar of events and student discipline. Are there any questions for either one of those? No? Okay, at this point, we will go into executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go in executive session. It's Kathleen.
Is there a second?
It's Jessica, second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
So
okay.
I just reshared the links with everybody, so.
Okay, and we're going to be inviting Scott with us as well, so to executive session. Rob, will you be taking minutes? Okay, very good. All in favor? I'll go down the line. I guess we can do an aye.
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 An aye as well.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll be going. It's 7:55. We'll be going into executive session, followed by a public session. So I will meet you all and the other link. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.